Yes, up with this one. Sharu, ask him, is it done? Okay, Sharu, put it on the side. It's okay, I'll do it with you later.
Okay, can you hear me now? Very good. Now I can't hear you.
Now, can you hear me?
Okay, perfect.
I'm back. And we are going.
Okay, great.
Sorry, Sharan's class was taking place, and I don't know why he wasn't like doing anything. So I have to go hand him over.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna have to finish by 4 because my kids have classes at 4 also.
No problem.
So I'll need to free up the laptop, yeah.
No problem. How is your son's tuition going? Wasn't the tuition at 3 or is it at 4?
Yeah, Ahmed dropped him 2:30 to 5:30. So
Where does he go?
Binish. I don't know if you know her. She's a K4 mom.
Is she
So
good?
our kids go to school. Yeah, she's good. She only takes like a handful of kids and she's very individual with them. So he's very good. And he needs that. So he is that, last baby. So he needs different approach than a class full of kids.
No, we'll finish at 4.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you didn't have Zoom, so it took you a while to like, oh, we are
right.
live. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. This is the original Scary Ammi, and I'm here with Petra Sheraz, who a lot of you actually already knew, which was a great, like, pleasant surprise, because I know Petra keeps a very low profile, but I'm glad that her work has started to make waves. So Petra, welcome to Scary Ammi, and you're one of the like softest, nicest, and probably the only lactation consultants around, or one of the very few. So tell me, like, you generally talk to mothers when they've just given birth, right, at Hamid Latif.
Right.
So what are the biggest reasons that mothers in Lahore are not able to exclusively breastfeed? Like, what are the biggest issues that you see?
Mostly they struggle because there is lack of awareness, and there is this belief that, oh, it will just come. Helps for some women, it is easy, but then you have these myths, misconceptions, and all kinds of beliefs that many times come in the way. And that doesn't come only from the elders in the family, from friends. It many times come even from the hospital itself, which is rather sad. But if the woman is misguided initially, it actually affects her a lot, because the woman right after delivery is very, very vulnerable. And if we tell her, oh, look at your breast doesn't have this shape, doesn't have that shape, your milk is not this. You tell her something negative, the woman really takes it very, very, she's very sensitive basically. So many women give up right then and there, just because they were told, oh, your breast is not the right shape. While in breastfeeding, there is no right size or right shape. The breast can be any size, it can be any shape, and the milk is always there for the baby. Moms try to press the nipple and they want to see the milk, which I can understand. They want to see, they want to be convinced the milk is there, but they just need to believe that the milk is there. When they were pregnant, their bodies were feeding their baby and they didn't see what was going into the babies, how they were being fed, how they were being nourished. So it's the same. Once the baby latches on and starts suckling, the milk comes. So this pressing of the nipple, it really only ends up hurting the mom. Plus, now I'll just go a bit further. The milk is not in the nipple. The milk is in the breast. So if the mom really wants to see, she has to press the breast and massage it a bit. Initially, the milk is thick. The first milk, which is called colostrum, is thick. It is there in less quantity, but it's a lot more, it's more nourishing. It's richer in calories. It's better in quality as compared to the mature milk, which comes a bit later. So it is there. It's harder to see, but the baby has to latch. Once the baby latches on and starts suckling, it comes. And this is usually when the women, they don't see anything and then they get worried.
Yeah. But Petra, one thing that I hear a lot of, like I exclusively breastfed all four of my kids, but what I hear a lot of people say is that that I don't have good supply, I don't have good supply. And I feel it's more in their heads. Because
Yes.
in my experience, like obviously, like there are a few lucky women who always like leaking, but most women aren't like that, right? So I was never leaking all the time, but obviously I had enough supply, which is why the babies were on it. So a lot of women say that, oh, the baby was crying because he was hungry and hence I don't have enough supply and I'm going to give the formula. Can you explain this? Like, do you think most women don't have good supply? Like, why do people believe this?
This is another common obstacle to women, and they are told and then they believe it themselves, which is usually not the case. So not having a milk is generally related to baby not being latched onto the breast properly. Women generally hold the breast like this, in this scissor hold, which allows the baby only latch onto the nipple. So the baby is suckling at the nipple, the baby is hurting the mom, and both are really miserable. The mother is hurting throughout the feeding and eventually ends up with really sore and cracked nipples, and the baby is always hungry. And then the mom feels with really hard breasts, which are really painful, uncomfortable, and then yet the mom still believes she doesn't have milk. So it's like a vicious cycle. If the baby latches on well, the baby will be able to empty the breast, have a good feed, and the mother is going to feel comfortable. So pain is not normal during breastfeeding. That's another common thing, that women think that they have to put up with the pain. Breastfeeding hurts and that's how it is, and we have to deal with it. No. If breastfeeding hurts, there is something wrong. So not having enough milk is generally related to basically baby latching onto the nipple, not having a good latch. Or like I said, the women pressing the nipple and they don't even try and they say, oh, see, there is no milk coming. Again, we don't want to see anything coming. We know the milk is there for about half of the pregnancy.
Petra, I lost you for a second. I think the connection.
About 8. Are we back?
Yeah, now you're back. Okay, and Petra, tell me one thing that a lot of, there are also these myths. One of the myths is that there are certain foods that enhance lactation and certain foods that don't. So is there any scientific evidence? Like I took a lot of Zira, like cumin, a lot of cumin, and then I took mother's milk tea. But, is there any like scientific evidence, or are these just things mothers do?
Really, generally, there are some which are helpful, but generally these are myths. Like women are made to drink a lot of milk because if you drink a lot of milk, you're gonna make a lot of milk. This is not the case. What the woman does, she needs a good nutrition. So there are no bad foods. There are no foods that she has to eat. There is nothing that she has to do because of breastfeeding. Okay. So the milk is obviously good. There is nothing wrong with the milk. It's a good source of calcium which the woman needs. But overdoing it on the milk, not every adult can really digest milk. A lot of us, it will make it gassy, it will make us uncomfortable, and some women are just plain intolerant. And if you're gonna force yourself to drink the milk, it's not gonna work. So I can't hear you.
Hello. No, sorry. I was just nodding. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So yeah, drinking milk again, it's a good thing, but it has nothing to do with the milk supply. I usually tell moms to speak of cows. Cows give us milk, but they eat grass. So same with the mom.
Yeah.
She needs to have a good nutrition. She has to have a good, well-balanced diet, plenty of fluids. Fluids are really important for the woman so that she doesn't get dehydrated. And as like you were saying that you're mentioning Zira, these things, I think it's more of cultural thing.
Yeah.
There are things like fenugreek, milk, or
Fenugreek.
blessed pickle that helps. Yeah.
Okay.
Fenugreek, but it has to be the seeds, and you have to make a powder of it, and it doesn't taste that good. There used to be capsules available, which are really hard to find these days. So yeah, of the home remedies, it's only the fenugreek which really has any background in increasing milk supply.
So, Petra, there's also this idea of women taking medicines to increase their supply. Like I've heard of them, I never took them. So is there, like a lot of women start self-medicating, right? Like they'll just start pulling.
Yes.
Is there, when should you take medicines? And does a lactation consultant recommend them? Does an OB/GYN recommend them? And when should you take them?
So with the medicine, if the woman is like within 6 weeks of after delivery, usually there is no need for medicine. Okay. If the woman stopped breastfeeding, wean herself, and maybe 3-4 months after delivery, she decides that she wants to start breastfeeding again, then there is a reason, there's an indication, and she can take medicine. She can bring in her back supply again. She can relactate, but it's not only the medicine. The medicine itself is not gonna do it. It's a hard work. And I usually tell the moms, if you're up for it, I can support you, I will help you, but it is gonna be a hard work on your part. Because it's not only the medicine, it's actually the physical stimulation to the body. So the woman has to either breastfeed or pump regularly to bring in her milk supply. So this would be a reason for a medicine when the mom wants to relactate, or for adoptive moms. I work with a lot of adoptive moms who want to start breastfeeding their adopted baby.
Oh, and does that work? Can you breastfeed
Yes,
an adopted baby?
Yes.
Oh, wow. How? Oh, so for that you would need medicines, I'm guessing.
Yes, for that you would need a medicine, yes.
Because you didn't go through the pregnancy, but that is fantastic.
So you trick the body into thinking the body is pregnant, and then you just go follow certain procedures, and the mother brings in her milk. It works, yes.
Wow, that is fantastic. I had no idea that if you were an adopted mom, if your child was adopted, you could still do it. Fantastic. Right. Okay, Petra, also moms of multiples tend to not exclusively breastfeed because they feel like my own sister, for example, even though she's a huge believer in breastfeeding and she really supported me when I was breastfeeding, she didn't exclusively breastfeed her twins because she felt it's not possible. But from what I've read, it is possible because if you have twins, your body produces more milk. If you have triplets, so if you have multiples, Should you do exclusive breastfeeding, or should you do, like top ups with formula?
I think always go for it. I always suggest the mom just try. It is overwhelming, definitely. It is overwhelming with one baby. So not even talking about two, it is tiring, it is demanding, but it is worth it. And it is possible. You can exclusively breastfeed twins, but you will need a great support and you will need to have the stamina for it. Not every woman is up for it, and it is understandable. It is hard, but it is possible. So you can do that, and women do it. It all depends basically on the support you have, on basically the family background, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
And the woman's own education and believe what she can.
Yeah. So Sarah Anjum is saying that twins means two hungry babies at the same time. So which is why she couldn't do it. So I looked into it a little bit. Obviously, I didn't have twins. So I think that there is something called, like, you feed them at the same time, right? Like there is,
yes.
I don't know what it's called. Like I looked into it for my sister, but I guess she felt that like she's feeding them, but she's not doing it exclusively because I guess she thought she couldn't. But how do you feed twins? You feed them at the same time, or you do one and then one?
So initially, because there are two different people, you start one at a time. And you want to get comfortable with one baby at a time. And when you are, after a couple of days, after a week or so, then you start feeding them both at the same time, which is going to cut you that feeding time in half, basically. And there are positions for twins which, women can use. And there is no right or wrong position for breastfeeding. Whatever works for the baby and for the mom is right. So there are certain positions that the women can follow.
Yeah.
And the woman can...
like in the US, they actually teach you all these positions. Like football hold was one that I still remember. And then there's a position where you're lying down and right. So while I agree with you, there isn't like a perfect position. Like I always felt I never got the positions right. There is that perfect latch, right? Because if the baby's not latching properly, then he's not going to get at. So when we talk, like even yesterday, we had some lactation consultants here. And they were also saying, make sure your baby latches. So how do you kind of, like, what is the way to get a proper latch?
Okay. I can tell you the common mistake. What prevents the common latch is holding the breast like this is one, which is very, very common. Another thing is pushing the breast in the baby's mouth, forcing the baby's mouth open, pushing the breast. So these are mistakes which we do not allow for the baby to latch on well. The baby has to have a big mouthful of the breast, which means the baby has to latch onto the breast, the brown part around the nipple, which is called areola. So unless the baby latches onto the areola and has the breast and suckling at the breast, he won't be or she won't be able to really feed well. So the latch is really the first and the last, which is the most important thing. It should not hurt the mother. If the mother is feeling really sharp cutting pain at the nipple, like somebody is trying to cut off her nipple, that kind of a pain, that's a sign that the baby is suckling at the nipple. And the baby will be hungry even after hours of feeding. If the mother takes the breast out of the baby's mouth and the nipple is shaped as a lipstick, kind of flattened from side or from both sides, that again, that's a sign that baby was not latched on well. The nipple should be nice and round when it comes out and just look exactly the same way when it went in. So it should not hurt. And the babies, I usually tell like the general rule, all of the brown part needs to be in the baby's mouth and nothing should be visible under the chin. If there is some of the areola sticking by the nose, that's fine. It's the lower jaw that is doing the work, that is actually doing the sucking, doing the feeding. So the baby has to have a big mouthful of the breast. And another thing is women try to hold the breast while the baby is feeding. Again, not allowing the baby have the access to the breast and have a good latch. So not holding the breast is another important thing. Have the nose and the chin be touching the breast completely. So they are completely close to the breast. And again, moms worry about the baby's breathing. You don't have to worry about the baby's breathing. They like to be, babies usually like to be buried into the breast because the closer they are, the more breast they have and the better flow they have. Now the thing with the nose, the tip of the nose is pushing against the breast and making space down here by the root of the nose. So the baby is happy and breathing and feeding. Even though you see from your angle The baby is probably suffocating, but he's not. If he was, the baby would pull away themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Petra, tell me, so burping, right? So this is again, obviously, I haven't breastfed for a while now. But in burping, so one of the things that I remember reading is that obviously, if you're giving the bottle, the burp is really important, right?
Yeah.
Because without the burp, it can be indigestion and all. But when you're breastfeeding, the burp isn't as important. Is this correct? Because if you're breastfeeding at night, should you still, often, like I remember I would be half asleep and I'd be like breastfeeding. So should you
Yes.
still do the burp? Is it still as important for
Yeah.
breastfeeding?
You should still give the baby the chance to burp. Even though breastfeeding, the babies may take longer. Some babies after breastfeed, they just don't burp. Some babies will do take a long time. And it is important to give the burp even after the breastfeed.
Okay, but after formula, but you're saying it's as important, right?
It is as important, yes.
Okay, okay, makes sense. So tell me one more thing, that when we talk about like breastfeeding, right? So I think in Pakistan there's a misconception. So people feel breastfeeding is just giving breast milk. Whereas I feel breastfeeding is exclusively only giving breast milk, right? So a lot of, like, when I was breastfeeding Kayan, I would talk a lot about it because I'd learned about breastfeeding. And all my friends were like, we're all breastfeeding moms. And I was like, then, I made a group and said, whoever's breastfeeding, join. And every mom who joined was doing breastfeeding and formula. So can you explain, like, why is there so much emphasis abroad on exclusive breastfeeding, which is really like what the child needs? It's not just breast milk. They need the exclusivity. Why? Why do they need the exclusivity?
Right. It has to do a lot of with the formula. Basically, the exclusive breastfeeding could be bottle feeding the breast milk as well, or it could be the direct breastfeeding. It's basically, it means not giving any artificial milk. Okay. So there is if the baby is on both, or if the baby is on the formula, the development of the GI tract is a bit different as compared to the breast milk. The baby who is fed formula, or the combination of the breast milk and formula, their GI tract is basically forced to mature a bit faster, because it has to work, it has to process, it has to digest all the chemicals in the formula and everything which is added in it, which is not natural. While with the breast milk, it says contains enzymes which digest the breast milk itself. So basically you can say that the breast milk helps to digest itself. So there is a difference in development. That's why we have so many disparities when to start solids. And it does differ. If you have an exclusively breastfed baby who's been on breast milk only, you want to wait until 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. I waited till like almost 7 months with Kian. But if the child is not exclusively breastfed, then you could start at 4. So what you're saying is absolutely right. The GI tract develops differently. Why is that bad? Because obviously, like, the best thing you can do for your child is exclusive breastfeeding. So why is it better for the child to have the GI tract develop slowly?
Okay, well, if we go, we can go all the way down to the cellular level, but obviously the breast milk, which if it's given, if you avoid formula in the first early days, there's a lot of inflammation that happens in the GI tract with the formula. So we are giving something which the body, with breast milk, we are giving something to the baby that the body is expecting to receive or is ready to receive. It is the baby's first vaccine. It prevents so many childhood diseases. It prevents all these infections like ear infections, stomach infections. It prevents it prevents some childhood cancers, diabetes. And with the longer you breastfeed, the better the benefits are for the baby. And for the mother as well. We should not exclude the mother, because the mother who is breastfeeding is also getting lots of benefits from the breastfeeding, including the cancer prevention, diabetes, and obesity. And all these things do affect the mother as well, as they are improving not only the current age of the baby, it gives basically a lifelong of a healthy life to the baby.
Yeah, very true. And also, when we, like, I've heard a lot of doctors say this, that even if you plan to not exclusively breastfeed or breastfeed, you must feed for the first 10 days. Right. Can you talk a little bit about why like that milk is actually called the like liquid gold? That's what
Liquid gold.
that's what my nurses in the US would say. Because I remember Rania had jaundice, right? And so when a child has jaundice, then they measure every drop going into her. But they were after my life that just pump and pump because this is liquid gold, and every drop like they would measure and give and measure and give.
Yes.
And so why is that like liquid gold so precious?
It's basically the breast milk generally, which is called the liquid gold, because we don't even know still the composition of the breast milk. It has not been fully discovered. There are so many antibodies. There are so many things in the breast milk that we still cannot even understand. But again, it has all these antibodies. The immunity that the mother has is being passed on to the baby, and it lasts for the first 6 months. And there is so many other things which are passed on, and it's not just food for the baby. So we have to realize that we're feeding the breast milk, we're not giving only food, we're giving a lot more than that. Plus, if the mother is breastfeeding directly, the direct touch is also very stimulating. It affects the emotional development of the baby. But basically, going back to the liquid gold or the breast milk, I have heard different things. The first 10 days, first 40 days, I guess every doctor gives a different estimate, but I would say every drop counts. If the mom feeds for the 10 days, good. If she feeds for a month, for 2 months, if she makes it to a year, whatever the amount of time that she can provide the breast milk, it really counts and makes a difference.
Okay, and Petra, tell me, so a lot of moms also pump, or pumping is now started in Pakistan. So is it, I mean, if you are a stay-at-home mom, do you even need the pump? Because if you're not working and you're home, is it better to put the child directly on your breast, or do you still need the pump to stimulate your breast more?
You don't really need the pump at all, basically. If you are going to be a working mom, it's a different story. If you're going to be staying at home mom, you don't need to buy a pump. You don't need a pump to start the milk. The milk will start the moment your baby is born. The moment the placenta is delivered, the breast milk starts. The flow starts, not the production.
It takes like
the production
an
obviously.
hour or so, right? Does it take
What
like
is it?
For the milk to come, it takes about 30 minutes or 40 minutes?
Not really. The milk is there. Many moms will leak even during the last trimester. But the delivery of the placenta basically stimulates the production of the mature milk, the milk which will come after those 3 to 5 days. But the colostrum has been there, has been made, and has been concentrated in the breast since about 20th week of pregnancy. So it is there for the baby whenever the baby is delivered. And the colostrum is probably the most precious milk which the woman will ever have, those 3 to 5 days, which is really important to give.
So tell me, there is this concept, or I've heard, because I didn't deliver in Pakistan, but I've heard that in Pakistan, once the baby is delivered, they take the baby to the nursery and give the baby a formula feed as the first feed. So if a mother wants to exclusively breastfeed, like you work at Hamid Latif, where there are many, many deliveries, what is the protocol? Do you tell the nurse and the doctor before delivery? Because it might be a C-section, that I don't want to, I am going to exclusively breastfeed. Because I remember in the US, like on the cot, they would have a sign, EBF or like combination.
Yes.
So like my kid was EBF, so they would know that, you know, if it's feeding time, take the baby to the mom, always. So it was like very clear. But I've heard from a lot of moms that in Pakistan, they give the first bottle, regardless of what the mom says. Is that true?
It is true, sadly, but again, I know I can't talk about other hospitals. In Hamid Latif, you have to talk to your doctor. And if you know this is going to be a C-section, you can arrange with the doctor that the baby is going to be brought to post-op. I mean, I had my kids delivered there as well, and I had the doctor agree that the baby is going to be brought to me for every feeding. So they brought him to the post-op for every feeding, and I have done this for other moms as well. So it's not only because I work there, but it can be arranged for other moms as well. And
like I feel the mistake moms make is that they don't tell, and like obviously if it's a C-section, you might be unconscious, and if nobody is aware, they'll just give a formula, since giving
Yes.
a formula is very common in Pakistan. But I think in the US, the law is very strict. So
Hmm.
you can't give formula. You have to first go
Right.
and advocate for breastfeeding. And only if the mother
Hmm.
refuses, and then I remember the woman next to me refused. And so then they had to call a social worker to understand
Hmm.
why is she refusing. Like, it's not that simple, right? But over here,
Yes. Yes.
very simple. So I agree with Petra. If you want to do exclusive breastfeeding, please make sure the nurse knows and your OBGYN knows, your pediatrician knows. Otherwise, they
Before the delivery, you want to discuss this before the delivery. You want to know how it works in the hospital. With normal deliveries, that's a different story. The baby is usually there with the mother, and it's the first 30 minutes after delivery which are precious, and put the baby onto the breast basically, which is the bonding time. And with the normal deliveries, it's done. But again, you need to talk with your consultant because not everyone wants this. Depends on the when we go with the anesthesia, it depends on the anesthesia that you're going to be using, that you choose. If you're going to be with general, obviously you'll be out for the next couple of hours. If you're going to go with spinal epidural, you'll be awake and you'll be ready.
Yeah.
So if the doctor knows what you want, then they can accommodate you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Petra, at what stage do you come in? Like, if somebody is delivering at Hamid Latif, do they ask for you before delivery? Like, are you there for the first feeding? How does it work?
Yes. So I usually visit the women once they are shifted to the room. So once they are in their room, the baby comes, then I come and guide them. Unless if they were like a second time moms they have met, they can ask for me, even come to post-op. So they know me, or there's something arranged through the gynae, or they have reached out to me, I can come to post-op, I can be in the delivery room, I can accommodate. But generally, I
They
just
have to
visit
reach
every
out
mom.
to you in advance. Like, they basically have.
Yes.
So I think the difference is that in Pakistan, you have to, understand that exclusive breastfeeding is not the norm. So if you want to do that,
Yes.
then you have to make sure everybody knows it. So I think in the US, because they advocate so heavily for it, that they
It
ask
is
you at like
exclusive.
every step, are you going to? Are you going to? Yeah.
Yes.
So I think
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
very useful. And Petra, one last question that I mean, when mothers are also like, I don't know if this is true, but they also feel that if they've had a C-section, they can't breastfeed, or something goes wrong with their breast milk if they've had C-section. I've heard a lot of this, that, oh, the reason,
Yes.
normal delivery moms are able to breastfeed, but C-section moms aren't. Can you explain
That's
that? What happens with a C-section that you can't breastfeed?
nothing. That's a myth. And obviously, C-section moms have it harder because it hurts more, right? After normal delivery, you're just fine. You're ready to run. After C-section, you're hurting. You're difficult to move, and that is the part. But it has nothing to do with breastfeeding. Like I said, the breast milk has to do with the delivery of the placenta, and whether the placenta is delivered normally or it's taken out through a surgery, it doesn't matter at all. So the milk production is the same whether it's normal delivery or a C-section, nothing changes. But C-section moms have it harder because it's difficult for them to sit, to move, and sometimes it even hurts to put the baby because sometimes the belly is still a bit protruding and the pressure hurts. So it makes it difficult.
Yeah,
But it has nothing to do with milk production or the milk supply initially.
absolutely. Great. Well, I know, Petra, you have to go, but this has been really informative. I think you answered all our questions, and it's so great to know that you are around in Lahore. So, anybody who has questions, I'm sure Petra is only doing telephonic and Zoom consults right now, but otherwise, she had clinic hours at Hamid Latif. So, you can reach out to her. So, now, like, the environment has changed, and you have expert help over there.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Aisha, for inviting me here.
Thank you. Bye.
Very good. Thank you. Take care. Allah Hafiz.